Ferrari may have just built a rear wing so extreme that Red Bull is trying to ban it before the first race even starts. During preseason testing in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton ran a configuration that gained nearly 12 km/h on the straight. Not with extra battery power. Not with a tow. With pure aerodynamic rotation. And when Max Verstappen saw the data, the reaction inside Red Bull was immediate. Meetings with the FIA. Safety complaints. Rulebook interpretations. Because this is not a normal upgrade. This is a potential half-second per lap advantage. In modern Formula 1, half a second is not evolution. It is domination. But here is the twist. The rear wing almost flips upside down on the straight. If the system fails, the car could instantly lose rear downforce. So the question is no longer just performance. It is legality. It is safety. It is politics. And we are still in testing. If this design is approved, Ferrari could start the season as favorites. If it is banned, we may be witnessing the most controversial innovation never allowed to race. So what exactly did Hamilton test? Why is Red Bull pushing so hard behind the scenes? And could this single rear wing decide the championship before race 1? Subscribe now, because what happens next inside the FIA could change the entire grid. To understand why this rear wing caused immediate tension, we need to go back to the exact moment it was first spotted on track. Because at first, nobody reacted. The SF26 rolled out of the garage looking aggressive, yes, but not revolutionary. The bodywork was tight. The packaging looked refined. The car sat low and purposeful. Then it hit the main straight. And everything changed. As Lewis Hamilton activated low drag mode, the upper rear wing element did not simply open like a traditional drag reduction system. It rotated. Far more than anyone expected. Almost completely over. For a split second, engineers along the pit wall froze. Cameras zoomed in. Mechanics from rival teams leaned forward. Because this was not a minor interpretation tweak. This was a different philosophy. Under the current active aerodynamic regulations, movable elements are permitted within controlled parameters. The speed of actuation is clearly defined. The timing is regulated. But here is the detail Ferrari exploited. The rulebook defines how fast the wing can move. It does not explicitly cap the final rotation angle once it reaches low drag configuration. That gray zone became Ferrari's opportunity. And once Hamilton completed his first full speed run, the numbers started circulating. Top speed was significantly higher than previous runs. Not marginally. Noticeably. Internal paddock estimates suggested an increase close to 12 km/h compared to baseline configuration. In Formula 1 terms, that is enormous. That kind of gain is not cosmetic. It changes overtaking probability. It changes energy deployment strategy. It changes how much battery you save for later in the lap. And that is where Red Bull's alarm truly began. Because this is not just about one straight. Lower drag means lower energy consumption at peak speed. Lower energy consumption means less clipping at the end of long straights. Which means more consistent power delivery deep into braking zones. And in Bahrain, where long straights punish hybrid systems, that advantage multiplies. But there was another layer that made this even more unsettling for rivals. The system appeared stable. No visible oscillation. No sudden imbalance when transitioning back to high downforce mode. Hamilton's onboard showed a car that remained composed under heavy braking, even after the wing rotated back into load generating position. That suggests Ferrari's hydraulic control system is precise, fast, reliable, at least in testing conditions. And that precision is everything. Because if the rear wing rotates too slowly, you lose time. If it rotates too abruptly, you destabilize the rear. Ferrari appears to have calibrated it perfectly. Now imagine watching this from the Red Bull garage. You already know Ferrari was strong in Sector 2. You already know Leclerc posted competitive times. And now you see a straight-line speed gain without energy penalty. That forces immediate questions. Can we replicate it? Should we protest it? Is it safe? Is it even within the spirit of the regulations? And this is where the political engine of Formula 1 ignites. Christian Horner and Pierre Wacht reportedly visited the FIA offices with documentation and photographs. Not casually. Deliberately. Their concerns focused on two main points. First, the use of exhaust gases interacting with the additional rear aerodynamic element. Second, the extreme rotation angle of the main rear wing. They argue that if the hydraulic system fails while the wing is in low drag mode, the car could instantly lose rear downforce at high speed. That is not a minor issue. That is potentially dangerous. And in Formula 1, safety arguments carry weight. But here is what makes this situation so complex. Ferrari did not hide the system. They ran it publicly. Confidently. That suggests they believe their interpretation is defendable. And that confidence is powerful. Because preseason testing is the moment to introduce controversial innovations. If you wait until race weekend, the backlash is louder. In testing, you can observe reactions, gauge political resistance, adjust strategy. And that is exactly what Ferrari is doing right now. But we are only scratching the surface. Because the rear wing itself is just one part of a much larger aerodynamic concept that makes the SF26 behave differently from anything else on the grid. And that deeper layer is what truly surprised Red Bull. But the rear wing alone is not what truly shook Red Bull. It is what happens when that wing works together with the rest of the car. Because Ferrari did not just rotate an aero element. They built an entire dynamic balance philosophy around it. Let's talk about what engineers are calling desynchronized active aero. Most teams link front and rear wing movement in a predictable pattern. When the rear opens, the front adjusts proportionally. Balance shifts smoothly, but conventionally. Ferrari went further. When entering a corner, the front wing closes milliseconds before the rear. That tiny delay changes the center of pressure instantly. The nose bites harder. Turn-in becomes sharper. Almost aggressive. Drivers describe it as artificial rotation. The car points toward the apex later, yet more decisively. Then, as the driver picks up throttle, the sequence reverses. The front wing opens first. Balance shifts rearward. Rear traction improves. The car squats and launches out of the corner. It feels, according to early feedback, like two different wheelbases in one chassis. Short on entry, long on exit. All controlled by software. No mechanical suspension tricks. No hidden mass dampers. Just air. And that is what caught Verstappen's attention. Because Red Bull's strength has always been mechanical grip combined with stable aero. They build predictable cars. Efficient cars. But this Ferrari behaves differently. It adapts mid-corner. And that is dangerous. Now imagine the strategic implications. On the straight, the rear wing rotates into extreme low drag mode. Drag drops significantly. Battery deployment becomes more efficient. Energy clipping is reduced. Then, approaching the braking zone, the wing snaps back into high downforce configuration. Front wing closes first. The car rotates sharply. And through the corner, the exhaust wing energizes airflow behind the car, stabilizing the diffuser. This is not one innovation. It is a layered system. Each piece supports the other. That is why early simulations estimate a gain between 3 and 5 tenths per lap. 3 tenths in Formula 1 is significant. 5 tenths is seismic. But here is the risk. Complexity. The hydraulic system controlling these elements must respond instantly. If there is lag, the balance shift happens too late. If the software miscalculates, rear stability disappears mid-corner. And at high speed, that is unforgiving. Hamilton's adaptation is critical here. He reportedly feels more connected to the rear than in his previous car. But this system requires trust. Absolute trust. You commit to the corner believing the aero balance will change exactly when programmed. If it does, the car feels revolutionary. If it does not, it feels unpredictable. And that uncertainty is precisely what Red Bull is emphasizing in their discussions with the FIA. They are framing it as a safety concern. Because in Formula 1 politics, safety arguments move faster than performance complaints. Now zoom out. We are still in preseason testing. Fuel loads are unknown. Engine modes are not fully unleashed. Sandbagging exists. But even in that environment, the SF26 has shown exceptional sector performance, particularly in medium-speed transitions. Leclerc's reference lap was strong overall. But the real strength appeared in the middle sector. The car rotated cleanly. Minimal understeer. Stable rear on exit. And when Hamilton ran comparable sequences, his telemetry showed flat steering traces. No excessive correction. That means the concept is working. At least for now. So Red Bull faces a dilemma. Do they focus on developing their own interpretation of the rulebook? Or do they push hard for a technical directive to limit Ferrari before race weekend? Because if the FIA declares this legal without restriction, every team will have to reconsider their rear structure design. Gearbox casings. Crash structures. Hydraulic layouts. This is not a quick patch. It is architectural. And architectural changes mid-season are expensive, time-consuming, risky. Which brings us to the biggest tension of all. If this system survives scrutiny, Ferrari could hold both qualifying and race pace advantages. Low drag on the straight. Dynamic balance in corners. Improved energy efficiency. That combination threatens Red Bull's traditional Sunday strength. And Verstappen knows it. Because dominance in modern Formula 1 does not disappear slowly. It shifts abruptly when someone finds a regulatory edge. So now the entire paddock waits. Not just for lap times, but for the FIA's interpretation. Will they see innovation? Or will they see a loophole that must be closed? And until that decision is made, the Ferrari SF26 remains the most fascinating, and possibly controversial, machine in preseason testing. The real question now is simple. Is this the start of a new aerodynamic era? Or the beginning of a political storm that reshapes the grid before the first lights even go out in Bahrain? Now let's step into the room where this battle is really unfolding. Not on track. Behind closed doors. Because what we are witnessing in Bahrain is not just technical innovation. It is the beginning of a political confrontation. Red Bull did not wait. As soon as Ferrari ran the inverted rear wing configuration publicly, documentation began circulating through the paddock. High-resolution images, slow-motion footage, angle measurements. And within hours, conversations with the FIA intensified. The argument is carefully constructed. Red Bull is not simply saying it is fast. They are saying it might be unsafe. And that changes everything. If the hydraulic system controlling that extreme rotation were to fail at high speed, the rear wing could remain in low drag mode entering a braking zone. That would mean a sudden loss of rear downforce. At over 300 km per hour. In Formula 1, instability at that speed is not theoretical. It is catastrophic. This is the line of reasoning being pushed. Because performance complaints can be dismissed. Safety concerns cannot. Now here is where it becomes fascinating. Ferrari anticipated this reaction. They did not introduce the system in secrecy. They ran it openly. Repeatedly. Confidently. That suggests internal validation. Extensive simulations. Stress testing. Hydraulic redundancy. They would not risk a public debut without legal and technical preparation. And that confidence sends another message. Ferrari believes this is defensible. But there is more at stake than just legality. There is momentum. For years, Red Bull has been the reference in aerodynamic interpretation. Aggressive concepts. Rulebook precision. Now, suddenly, Ferrari has delivered something that looks equally daring. Equally disruptive. And that shift alone alters the psychological balance. Because if Ferrari can out-interpret the regulations at the start of a new cycle, the entire competitive landscape changes. And think about Hamilton's position in this story. He joins Ferrari. New environment. New engineers. New philosophy. And during preseason testing, he becomes the driver showcasing the most controversial innovation on the grid. That is not coincidence. Hamilton's feedback is precise. He understands aerodynamic balance deeply. If he feels the system enhances stability rather than compromises it, that strengthens Ferrari's internal argument. And early signs suggest he is adapting quickly. He reportedly described the car as feeling alive. Responsive. Different. That word is important. Different means it does not behave like conventional cars. And unconventional designs are what force rulebook debates. But here is the larger strategic layer. If the FIA allows the inverted rear wing without modification, every rival team faces a brutal decision. Redesign now and sacrifice early season development in other areas. Or accept being behind on straight-line efficiency. Redesigning is not simple. Rear wing mounting points connect to the gearbox casing. The gearbox casing connects to the rear suspension geometry. Hydraulic routing must be re-engineered. This is structural, not cosmetic. And structural changes take time. So even if other teams attempt to copy it, Ferrari could enjoy a performance window of several races.